Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. Often, when I connect with someone who's grieving the death of a family member, they might talk about regrets. But what's interesting is sometimes it's regrets around the family member who died not being who the family member who survives wants them to be. So, I recently talked with a colleague who cared for her father. And she expressed regret that he couldn't tell her he was proud of her and he loved her prior to his death. And she said, he talked to the nurses and the social worker in such a loving way. He expressed his gratitude for them and thanked them regularly. And she said, I don't know why he couldn't do that for me. So we continued the conversation. And at the right moment, I shared an insight with her. And I suggested that what we want from another that we're not receiving oftentimes can be a flag for us to think about, am I giving in my relationships what I want from other relationships that I'm not receiving? In essence, she was longing for something from her father that she wasn't receiving, an expression of love. Perhaps there were relationships in her life where she wasn't giving that love to others. And when I suggested that to her, she said, my brother will say to me, why do you appear so stoic? Why can't you share with me what you're feeling? And she said, I've been really concentrating and committing to doing that, to really opening myself up to how I feel. And she said, but it's hard. The change is hard. So I was able to share with her an insight that was helpful, which is she knows how hard it is to change. So now she understands how hard it was for her dad to change. And then I suggested that he was in the midst of a change, and perhaps he was testing this change on the nurses and the social worker. He was expressing to them to see how it felt, to see how they responded. And I said, the really difficult part about this is that he just ran out of time. So he was testing it out on people who were easier to test it out with because he didn't feel so vulnerable with them. And he just didn't get a chance to test it out on her, to express how much he loved and appreciated her and how proud he was of her. And it was interesting to watch her facial expression when I shared this idea that he was trying to change. He was testing it out so that he could actually change with her, but he just ran out of time. And her expression absolutely changed. She had this big smile on her face as I was sharing that insight. And you could see the relief. She no longer was in a place of longing for her dad to be someone who he just wasn't ready to be. Instead, she could feel the compassion for him and taking the risk of being different in relationships. He wanted to be different. It's just that he ran out of time. That's the saddest part of that story. He really wanted to be who she wanted him to be. So I think about that as really a helpful insight for myself and for others, that change is hard. And sometimes it's easy for us to experiment to change on people who we don't necessarily have a relationship with. So we don't feel like we're taking that much of a risk. And to really be compassionate to people in our life, understanding that they might be in a place of change, having the courage to change, and it's just not something that we can see right now. But people are out there doing their best. And sometimes the hard part is we just run out of time. So I guess the final lesson learned is don't run out of time, right? Be who you want to be today in this moment. Express, take action, take a risk, put it out there. That way you won't have regrets either. Okay, thanks so much for watching. I'm Denise Brown. Take care. Bye bye.